6 countries that face starvation due to Russia's grain deal exit. 1. Ethiopia. Ethiopia relies on the UN's World Food Program. It's the country that will be affected the most. Ethiopia received more than a third of all Ukraine grain exports. Last year, it was 263,000 tons. The situation in Ethiopia is dire. The country has just gone through a brutal civil war. The government tried to starve the rebel province of Tigray. 80% of Tigrayans were on the brink of starvation. After a ceasefire agreement, food started coming in. But then a drought struck, followed by locusts. The ceasefire didn't last. At least 200,000 people have starved to death. 13 million more are threatened. 2. Yemen. 16 million Yemenis are experiencing food insecurity. The country has been ravaged by war. Similar to Ethiopia, a ceasefire deal fell through. 4 million people have been displaced. 7.3 million Yemenis are currently threatened by starvation. Ukrainian exports represented 31% of wheat that arrived in Yemen. Prices have risen 7-fold. A kilogram of wheat flour costs more than 800 rials today. Before the current crisis, it was 146 rials. About 50,000 children do not receive enough food each day. More than 2 million children are severely malnourished. 4.6 million people don't have access to safe drinking water. 3. Afghanistan. Afghanistan's food security situation is very bad. It has severely deteriorated in the last 2 years. 55% of the population face critical food insecurity. Afghanistan imported 131,000 tons of Ukrainian grain last year. The WFP has been forced to reduce food rations. Afghanistan's agriculture has also suffered. Heat waves and fertilizer shortages are exacerbating the risks. 4. Sudan. Sudan was heavily reliant on both Ukrainian and Russian grain. 87% of its grain imports came from these two countries. This year, 12 million Sudanese are facing food insecurity. Children make up 40% of Sudan's population. There are about 45 million people in Sudan. More than 3 million of them are starving. Sudan is also threatened by domestic instability. Droughts and armed conflicts have ruined its agriculture. 5. Kenya. Kenya, called Russia's grain deal exit, a stab in the back. It's another country that is suffering from droughts. Kenya received 30,000 tons of Ukrainian wheat in March. This was widely celebrated before the invasion. Kenya imported a lot more. 2.4 million tons of Ukrainian wheat arrived annually. Kenyan agriculture is insufficient to feed the country. It relies on imported grain and fertilizers. 6. Somalia. The WFP describes the situation in Somalia as catastrophic. The country has been devastated by the extreme drought. 6.5 million people face acute food insecurity. The conditions are the driest they've been in 40 years. 1.84 million children under 5 face acute malnutrition. 478,000 of them may die of hunger. Huge numbers of people have been forced to leave their homes. Over 1.5 million Somalis have been displaced by droughts. The 2011 famine in Somalia killed 260,000 people. This time around, the number could be much higher. Ukrainian grain is critical for Somalia's survival.